Liyokim ben Chaim Yosef Olav Shalom, Helig and Neshama Shmizocha, to a tremendous and continuous aliyah in Neshama and Gan Eytan Shamayla Mechayil Achayil Mitz Hashem. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Nehiyeh Bidvaro. Siyata Dishmaya, tonight I'd like to share with you a question posed by the Heilige Rav Shimshon Pincus Zechatzalik Lefrocha, and he bleibs shver, he leaves off Tzorchian with Siyata Dishmaya. Perhaps I'll be two fascinating marmakomos. We could be meyashev the Tzorchian over Rav Shimshon Pincus. This is not from the recorded shiurim that appear in the wonderful 5-volume set Teferes Shimshon. This is in Teferes Torah that he himself penned. So we have, obviously this year it's not, because of the leap year, they are broken up, the off the joining parshios of Vayaka Pekude, and we have in Tumat Tetzaveh various tzivuyim issue legabe the asiyas beniyas hamishkan and all the sacred hallowed kalim contained therein. Parshios Vayaka Pekude, of course, see in their holy pages the actualization, the materialization of all the tzivuyim. Vayaka focusing on the etzem binyan hamishkan, along with the klei shorish, the klei hamikdash, and Parshas Pekude, the actualization, all the tzivuyim reaching fruition, outline in Parshas Tetzaveh, they now come alive in Parshas Pekude. So it's really Parshas Pekude that focuses on the Asiyas Big Day Kahuna, all the various articles of clothing donned by the Kohen Gadol and Shar Kohanim. So Rav Pincus writes a little ket on Parshas Pekude Teferes Torah. Lechora tamua ma'od. Frekt Rav Pincus. It's astounding. It's a big kasha. Lama mafari takov seder asiyas big day kahuna. I understand Parshas Vayakel. I understand. I gave tzivuyim in the pages of Teruma, and I have to spell out the Maisa Beniyas HaMishkan and all the Kalim. Bishlom asiyas HaMishkan. There's a mitzvah to build the Beis HaMikdash. V'osuli midash shachani v'saycha. V'gam asiyas HaMishkan. I say mitzvah miyuchedes liyos hasham. So I understand why I'm going over and over the building of the actual Mishkan along with all the Kalim. And of course we have the Ramban and Rabbeinu Bachai and other Rishonim, the constant reiteration, the constant recurring kasher also. They did exactly as Eibishter was mitzaveh, had to highlight all these psukim elaborating on them carrying out the tzivuyim of the Eibishter, laharas, the chibas, hamokum aleim, that the Eibishter had tremendous love. Look how much he's machavev. So that I understand, the Torah is coming to tell us the Aswa Kol Kedin Kasher Tziva Shemas Moshe. The Hainu they were Makayim the mitzvah of Beniyas HaMishkan and all the Kalim Kitzikuna. So Akoponim there was a shem Kiyim Miyuchad. There was a Kiyim Miyuchad Bizmanav a big day Kahuna. Shalo Hayu Bahem Shum Hora Shau Udin She Yeshayich Los Izman Klal. V'Gam Lo Niskayim Be'etzem Asiyah Shum Kiyim Mitzvah Klal. Big Day Kahuna, there's no asiyas Big Day, there's no din or mitzvah klal. Why? He says, in the end of the day, kol yochid yochel asayim, and the most from the tzibur. You can have a woman who's a tailor, the seamstress, and she can go in and make the Big Day Kahuna. She can fashion it in her basement, she can make it in her attic, and at the end of the day, she can give it over to the Mishkan, she can give it over to the Kohanim. Madua por lecha kosav echasom v'tzorchian. Why do I need Parshas Pekude detailing beprotrot and all the nuances and details? And they fashion all the but there wasn't any mitzvah miyuchedes. And the other day, the Kohanim, as actually they can't do the avodah without the appropriate Big Day Kahuna. But you can have a woman who makes it. There's no tzivui miyuchad that you want to highlight. Oh, they did exactly as Eibishter told them. You can have a random woman who does it in her basement. She presents it to the Mishkan. And not only that, he says, what does it say? Atzah tadaber kol chochmei leiv Hashem elei sivru a chochma of asu is Big Day Aaron. What did it say back in Tetzaveh? You're going to speak to the chochmei leiv. They're going to fashion all the begodim of Aaron and the Kohanim. L'char eisa chochma tzarch lebig day kuna. Harayetzam hasiyu rak ma'aseh chayot is balma. You need a chayot. You need a tailor. You need a seamstress. What groisa chochma? How do you build a Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest chochma in the door? He didn't know how to build a menorah, a miksha hachas out of him. So throw it into the eish. Right? You needed a betzalel, brachas and hayam and aleph. Yodei hay betzalel tzari panes osio shu and nivshum and arts to create the kalim. But the So what in the world is this doing here? He leaves off Shver Tzorchian. Why all these Sivuyim back there? There was no special mitzvah to make the big day Kuna. It's just the Kohanim can't do the avodah without donning the appropriate vestments. You need to don the attire that's appropriate. Side for the Kohen Hedger, side for the Kohen Gadol. But in the end of the day, there's no mitzvah miyuchedes that should warrant even a leave of the Ramban and the Rabbeinu Bachai. And you want to have the recurring theme of, look how Klai Yisrael listen to show the chivas hamakom. In the end of the day, you just need a random person who's a gewaldige tailor making it in their backyard, and that's it. Ad kan Rav Pinkus. L'chayra, we can answer as follows. We see out the Shmaya. Let's turn to the Telz of Rosh Hashiva. Rav Eli Meir Bloch back in his Penine Das and Parshas Truma. Rav Eli Bloch is bothered. We have a fascinating Rashi in Truma per Chafei Pasuk Chaval of the Pasuk told us V'nasat esek apayres ala oren milamalo v'la oren titin esaidus asher etein elecha. And we saw in Rashi before, and Rashi was lo yadati lama nichbo. It already told us kvar nemar v'nasat ala oren esaidus. The Torah already told us just previously in Parshas Truma that you will take the Luchas Eidus and place it into the Aron. So why does the Torah have to repeat? And by the way, you'll place the Kapairos on top of the Aron. The Aron Titinus Eidus that I'm going to give you. The Torah already told us you're going to take the Luchas Eidus and place it into the Aron. So Rashi says Lo Yadati. So we explained this in Maral, many other Perushim. That's something that we addressed in the past, but Al Koponim, it's not what Rashi says. Maral is so bothered by Rashi. He says in the Gorah, he says Lo Yadati. Why Rashi says Lo Yadati? I don't know why Rashi says it's obvious, and that's something we talked about various tiruts. Let's take it closer to Rashi. So Rashi Yishlomar, Shabola Lamid, Shabaodo Aron Nevada below Kapores, Yitin Tchila Edis Lesocho, Veachkach Yitin is a Kaporos Olav. So Rashi, you must be here to tell me, don't build the Aron as an independent entity and finish the process and put on the Kaporos on top, and only then put in the Aron Diner, take off the Kaporos now, and put the Luchas Edis into it. No, before you finish the whole process of the Aron, before you put the Kaporos initially on top of the ark, I want you to put the Luchas Eidus inside, and only then you're going to place the Kapairos. Maral, of course, the bother. I need Rashi. Rashi is telling me that the whole reason the Torah, and I don't want you to repeat it, is because you might think, let's finish the box. Once we finish the box, let's hold the ark. Now let's take off the cover and let's put that which the whole box was here for, is for the Luchas Hashiv, Luchas Menachem. Who wouldn't? Isn't it any bar seichel l'chayra? What would you do? Well, let's go ahead. If the Abish already told me I have to put the Luchas Eidus into the ark, so now that I fashioned the ark, go ahead and take it. Now, again, one can argue if it's mamish, all considered one kli, but especially like the Rambam Milchus Beis Mechir and Perek Dalet, something we discussed with Shmuel Shapiro in the past, is a D and a Machlokes in the Rishonim, whether we judge them as one kli together, one composite whole, or they're really three distinct kelim, the Oren itself, and then the Kapairos with the Kruvim, maybe they're down like three separate. Akoponim L'chayra, the pastor says, of course you place out. So what's the chiddush? Right? So then what? The hanocha rishona of placing the Luchas Eidus into the ark. Hai sabah kedusha miyuchedes. V'hai sedusha lezek kavana miyuchedes. Just like when it came to the Kamas Mishkan, as we read in Vayaka Bakudei, and he had all the Chochmei Leiv. They made the Mishkan, they made the Kalim, and still they had to bring it to Moshe Rabbeinu in order to put it up. And not stum anyone can put up a Mishkan. You need Moshe, the Grois Chacham, to put it up. And not only that, you think all the artisans in the world. No, you need Betzalel. What do you need Betzalel? Because you need the one who's Yodei Betzalel. Tzari V'Saos Yeshua Nivu Shemaim and Oretz. We mentioned in the past Gavaldi Yishtikol by Rishmol Burmau, the Mir Rosh Hashiva in the Sefer B'Kori Shemol Parshas Vayakel, and he says, "What's this idea? Karasio B'Shem, holding him up. Let me hold him up to the world." Right? Remember the old Lion King? Right? Let's hold up. Whatever the name is. Right? Let's hold the little lion. Show him. That was the ad. Right? Show him up to the world. The ad was, who's in charge? What's this idea? You got to show the world Betzalel's in charge. Zok to Shmuel Burmau. And we have the Gemara Sanhedrin. Betzalel was a mere 13 years of age. You had Ziknei Hadar. Why would the Ziknei Hadar, the Shimon Zikanim, why would they be makabel instructions from a 13-year-old bocher? And then he's 13 years old. Teretz says he's getting the Siyat to the Shemaim. We bought a fascinating story of Kivegan of some Sefer, and the story of Moshe. And the end of the day, if the Eibishter gave him the Kochas, he's the one who has the Kochas. He's the one who has the Siyat to the Shemaim, and he's the only one who has the Miyuchadika Chochma Bin and Das to know how to make these Kalim. It's not Stamazoi. It's not simply making the Kalim rights that tells the Rosh Hashiva. It's knowing all the Kavanos that you have to instill into Alpi, the Sodos Habriya. Mamela, that's The whole idea of the shulchan, even though the menorah that was miyuchan, but the shulchan, you can make a shulchan, you can make a mizbeach, and the other day, no, it had to be done al pi chochma yisera, based on like the Nefesh HaChaim outlines in Shar Aleph and Perek Dalet in the Haggah, how on a microcosmic scale the Mishkan corresponded to the entire universe. It was a miniature universe, and it corresponds to all the Ivari HaAdam, all the 613 mitzvahs connected to Ramachivram Shesagidim. There was a chelik of the Mishkan, the prat that corresponded to every little prat in the Bria, not only to mankind as the Adam HaPrati, but to the entire universe, both in clothing in a cosmic scale. That was the Mishkan. You needed to understand, you needed to plumb the depths and the intricacies of all the Sodas Abriya. You needed a Chochma Yisera. Soli Betzala, Moshe, they were masugel to such an idea. V'lachein al korchach yishchilik v'avda al pi Soda Abriya. Im yanichu es luchas achas shekvar haisa kaparas menachas, and then you open it up to place the luchas inside. Or if you would go out and place it before, so you'll say, what's an afkamina? The tachlis is, get the luchas and the shivri luchas inside the arid. My afkamina, whether I place it before I put the lid on, or I take the lid off and now I put it in. He says, Bar Korchach, what's Rashi teaching us? That the Torah had to go out of its way to say, I want you Davka Zok the Ribono Shomai Dei Moshe Ben. I want you Davka to go ahead and put the Luchas Sa'idus into the Aron before you put the lid, the Kapyrus on top. My nafkamina, you might see it Einachanami from a pragmatic perspective. Yes, it doesn't make a nafkamina, but if you're building a whole Mishkan and all the holy kalim contained therein, al pi sodos habriya, and everything has kavanos miyuchonos that a chochma bina das, this is nis poshet azachin. It makes an nafkamina having to do with the universe and having to do with all these profound esoteric concepts. It makes an nafkamina whether you place a luchas before you put the lid on, or whether you finish the aron and then you take it off. You say, oh, does it make an nafkamina? That's what the Torah is teaching us. It makes an afkamina. Not in a practical thing. Yeah, the upshot remains the same. The luchas is sitting inside the ark. But I was tapping in to the profundity and the kavanos miuchados, the kavanos amukos, and what the Mishkan's accomplishing. Zok that tells Rosh Hashiva an important yesod when it comes to all these parshiyos, truma through the culmination in the parshiyos of Vayakal B'Kudei. It's all about tapping into Sodas Abriya, and that's why not everybody was able to do it. And that's why you had the Homachlikis, Moshe and Betzal, and the other. What do you build first? The Mishkan, the Kalim, Moshe says, you must be Shem and Betzel Kal. He said, my nafkamina. And the other day, I need a Mishkan, I need the Kalim. Teretz says, it makes an nafkamina. Which one you do first? It makes an nafkamina. How you do them, how you place them, how you position them. They finished everything, you know what to do. Now just put it up. You can't just put it up. It's got to be done in a certain specific hyphen that only Moshe and Betzal were Mesugol to have the requisite Chochma Bin and Das to know exactly the order. How do you go and put it up? Meila. We can answer Shimshon Pincus' kasha. Einachanami, als the actual tefira, als the Maisa Chayotis, yes, you want to go ahead and make Big Day Kahuna. Einachanami, there's no mitzvah yechidus, you don't have to go ahead. I need a groisa chachman for that. But what? It involved kavanos v'yichadus. What do you mean? It's a kasha me. How can I say your mouth's going to be yichadus? There was no. And if a woman can be a master, a seamstress, and she makes it in her basement, and you see, you don't need to come on a shulchan. No, for that, I'm going to bring you a Chsam Sefer. I'm married to Drashas Chsam Sefer. In the Drasha for Shabbos Shuvah, and the Sam Sefer in this Drasha Shabbos Shuvah, he talks fascinating. The Gemara Yumas Amatesa base, we know the Anshe Gedas Gedolah, we're Mavalta the Yitzhak for Avodah Zarah. So the Sam Sefer, you know what's really going on behind the scenes? You know what it means Mavalta? By creating the Nusach HaSeder HaTfilah, Mamela they Mavalta. Why do people go after Avodah Zarah? Because once you had a base of Mikdash, now there's a mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel, and people bought the Kavanos, and they want to be in proximity to the divine 3 times a year, the 3 pilgrimage festivals, but they looked around the Goyim and they said, Klal Yisrael is an Isser Bamas. But the Goyim, they like that this guy has a bama in his backyard. He gets to pray to his God in his backyard. What did Anshe Gedas Gedolah see? That the Yidden, unfortunately, even Bisman and Mikdash, you had Anshe Gedas Bisman by Yasheni, and there are people, and what are they doing? And they're being only to Avodah Zarah because they want to have an opportunity to connect to the upper celestial spheres. They want to do it just like the Goyish partners. So what do? They said, you know what? That's why it was because they asked the Bamas, and the Mela, they wanted places to daven. So what did they do? So they got together, Tiknu Tefillah V'Sidura, to be Mekanish Hashem Arabim. And this way they said, what? Everybody get together now and have minyanim. Get together and have minyanim, get together and daven. And this way you can connect to Hashem even if you're not in the base of Mikdash. Even if you're in your backyard, you can get together. Again, not in a tent minyan. No, they're not doing it. If it's not COVID, you're getting together in base Knesset. You're going to build Bata Knesset, so if you're outside the base of Mikdash, so you'll have a platform, a venue through which you can connect and daven to the Eibishter, even in your own locales, your own Mechuli Yavir V'chulei. And then he says, Amayr de Gezach. He says, yes, we know the Nefesh HaChaim and Sharbeis, who says that all the Kavanos of the Arizal, the Ramak, the Rashash, all the Heilige Kabbalistic concepts that are delineated by the Heilim Mekubolim, especially in Tzfas in the 16th century, all those Kavanos, right, Chaim Veloshan, Achak Netzolo, Umehem Hayunavim, Chagis Chaim Malachi, they are Machaving to all those Heilige Kavanos. But more than that, that's the Nefesh HaChaim, Adkan Rechaim Veloshan. Writes the Sam Sefer, a boy say, listen to this drosha, Sam Sefer Shabashuva. Ain't Sofik Etzli, Shafilu Hamisadrim Atzmon. Even the members of Anshe Knesset Gedolah Be'em Hayinavim Chagis Mechayim Lech, they're putting together the Nusach HaTfilah that we have today. Shehizmin Lem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sidr Halaz, Hey Ba'atzmim Lo Yordu Atochen Omer Kavanoso. They themselves weren't aware of all the words that the Eibishter was putting into their minds. And then he goes on to say, because of the schus of being in Eretz, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't give the Nusach HaTfilah. You needed the schus of Eretz Yisrael, and you needed the members of Anshe Knesset Gedolah to get together, and they were machaving to all the heilige kavanos of the Arizal and the Rashash and the Ramak and all the heilige lofty mekubolim. But writes of some Sefer says, ain't suffolk that even they themselves were not aware of all the kavanos that Hashem was putting into their minds, into the words that they themselves could be masik. Can't imagine what the words are doing. Like Rameh Simcha writes in Meshech Chochmah and Vayechi, that when Yaakov says to Yosef, I conquered my enemies, Bachari, Bakashti, Bitzlusi, Bausi, Yizakti Meshech Chochmah, Tzlusi, those are the set tefillos that are coined, that are metaphorically linked with the sword. What's the sword? You don't need to be a Groisa Chocham, you have a sharp pointed sword, a mere contact, minimal contact already can inflict pain and tremendous damage. It gets the job done. That's Tzlusi, that's Shachris and Chamar. Even if you don't have Groisa Kavanos in your tefillah, you say the words that they gave us, they do things. They work like the sword. Ba'usi, Mavaz Adam Abakama Gimel Amad Beis, your own personal tefillas. Then it's like the bow and arrow. An arrow isn't going to do anything. It all depends on the skill set of the archer. It depends how well you're able to position the arrow, how well you're able to pull back, how much strength you put into it. Knowing the physics of the flight of the arrow, you need to have a chachma. That's your own personal tefillas. But the shachris and chamarev that would nikva, that works like the sword that pierces, and even they themselves are not aware of all the heilige kavanos. And so then when you put together a Veil Meir Bloch and the Sam Sefer, maybe that's what's going on over here. Tzorchi and Faktashishapikas, I need a Parshas Bakude. I understand Vayako, you're going through Karsha also. They did what Eibishter was mitzvah. Big Day Kahuna, and the other there's no mitzvah yichidus by Big Day Kahuna. And you can have someone that, but even that woman in her attic, because these Begodim were part and parcel of the Kahuna, who were the Machabdei they were Meshorsim the Beis HaMikdash. There were heilige kavanos in every single aspect. But they weren't thinking it. They didn't have to think it like the Sam Sefer. Eibishter is making sure these kavanos are going into it based on these materials. And when they're fashioned in such a fashion, you follow the guidelines. When you create this beggar, it's not stam a goody, a local tailor, a Vincenzo, a beautiful Italian tailor, and he'll go out and make you a handmade suit. No, this woman is making the big day when she follows the parameters, the instructions, the guidelines outlined by the Torah Kadosha. Phineas Daiti, like can't imagine the soda sabah. But they weren't thinking of it. They're not Betzalel, they're not O Betzalel, they're not O Moshe Rabbeinu. But like the Sam Sefer, you're right. But these were, Hashem said, it's not the same darga. The Klei Shores, that's a darga. You needed Mamish Betzalel, Sheyadeya Hayel Etzari Penasa Osios. But if you follow these big dekuna, even the people themselves are not aware, but so does Samukim were getting placed intrinsically into the Etzam Hasiyas of Begonim, because every chilek of the Mishkan, including the Kohanim, including the Begonim, the Kohanim the first played a role in matching up to what's going on in a cosmic scale, in a cosmic plane, vis-a-vis the entirety of the universe in the Bria. So that would be Miyashiv Sarachin. Have a wonderful night and a great rest of the week.